the number one question we always get is, what is the forecast? How many we're going to get? And the reality is we have that. There's lots of different places you can get it. NOAA's got an official forecast for average to above average, but here's what we have to consider. So those are forecasts for how busy it is over the Atlantic, but it's not a forecast for landfall. So you hear the old saying, it only takes one. That is a very important sentence because there could be one hurricane on Earth. If it hits us, it's a busy season. So whether it's busy or not doesn't change our preparedness. You have to be ready as if we're going to be hit.
So here in the Hurricane Specialist Unit, during the season, we have 2 folks on shift 24 hours a day, 3 shifts a day. So they're coming in and monitoring potential systems that could become tropical cyclones in both the East Pacific and the Atlantic. So we issue what we call a tropical weather outlook every 6 hours. It talks about any system that could form over the next 5 days. And then we coordinate the watches and warnings with all our international partners in the Caribbean, Mexico, Canada, Bermuda, all the countries that could be affected in both ocean basins.
All of Florida, the entire coastline of Florida is vulnerable to storm surge. We don't have mountains in Florida. We're largely a flat state. So that means that when the ocean is pushed inland, there's nothing to block it or stop it. It can just keep going for miles inland.
The most important thing people can do is find out if they live in a storm surge evacuation area. You can go to your local county emergency management website, find the maps for the different counties and see if you live in those evacuation zones. And that tells you that you might be asked to evacuate in a hurricane threat. And so that sort of forms the foundation for your hurricane preparedness plan, because if you're going to be asked to leave your home, you're going to take very different steps to get ready for a storm than if you live somewhere that's outside of a surge zone and then housing that's sufficient to withstand the wind where you could shelter in place.
I think new for this season, we're spending a lot of time looking at our products to make sure we can communicate how much of the impacts are going to be outside the cone. So we have some new tools. We're looking at some of the graphics showing, an area of winds that stretch out from the center. We're trying to look at that. New for this year, we're trying to get further out in time. That's our goal. We want to give people as much notice as possible, but not stretch out so far with the forecast. We have to be careful comparing storms. So if it didn't happen to you in Irma, that doesn't mean it can't happen. We got to be careful with that, because you look at Wilma, you look at Charlie, you look at Irma, they're all different. They're all completely different. So we have to be very careful comparing last season to this season, comparing Irma to the next storm. Please listen for the impacts. We spend a lot of time communicating those impacts, and that's what's going to give you a clue to what that hurricane could produce.